The shadows are alive. I had always believed our home was a sanctuary, a place where the laughter of my son, Jacob, filled the rooms with warmth. But lately, the walls echoed with a different kind of murmur, a language I couldn't decipher. Jacob's obsession with drawing arcane symbols had become more than a child's whimsy. It was a compulsion, driven by an unseen force that left chills down my spine. Each symbol was intricate, a labyrinth of lines that twisted and turned like serpents entwined. He said they were for protection, to keep the nightmares at bay. I humored him, thinking it was just a phase, until last night. I found him asleep, not in his bed, but on the floor, encircled by flickering candles. The air was thick with the scent of wax and something else, something metallic. The shadows cast by the candlelight danced across the walls, independent of their sources. They twisted into shapes that defied logic, forms that seemed to whisper secrets meant only for Jacob. I reached out to wake him, but hesitated. The air around him felt charged, electric, as if I were about to interrupt a sacred ritual. I watched, heart pounding, as one shadow detached itself from the wall. It slithered across the floor, a tendril of darkness reaching for my son. I lunged forward, breaking the circle of candles, and grabbed Jacob. The room plunged into darkness as the candles snuffed out, and a cold silence enveloped us. When the lights returned, the symbols on the walls were gone, erased as if they had never been. Jacob awoke, confused and scared, asking why I had disturbed his guardians. I couldn't answer. I didn't understand what had happened, but I knew our lives had irrevocably changed. The next day, I found more symbols, this time etched into the wooden floor beneath Jacob's bed. They were deeper, more deliberate, and I couldn't shake the feeling that they were alive, pulsating with an energy I couldn't comprehend. As night fell, I tucked Jacob into bed, watching as his eyelids fluttered closed. But sleep eluded me. I sat in the living room, the weight of unease heavy on my shoulders. Then, a faint scratching sound began, emanating from Jacob's room. It grew louder, more frantic, as if something was clawing its way through the walls. The following night, I sat cross-legged on the floor of Jacob's room, my fingers tracing the sigils etched into the wood. They seemed to pulse, responding to my touch, as if they recognized me. The room was colder than usual, and the air tasted metallic, like blood. Jacob slept soundly in his bed, oblivious to the shadows gathering around him. I had become a reluctant guardian, my duty to protect him from whatever malevolence these symbols held at bay. But I needed answers. Why had my son become a conduit for this otherworldly force? I researched ancient texts, desperate for clues. The symbols resembled no known language or script. They were primal, older than civilization itself. My findings led me to a forgotten cult, the Order of the Veiled Whisperers. They believed that certain individuals could communicate with entities from the Shadow Realm, acting as intermediaries between our world and theirs. The cult's rituals involved drawing sigils, invoking spirits, and binding them to specific locations. The purpose? To keep the balance between realms intact. But what had gone wrong? Why had Jacob become their vessel? And what did they want from him? As days turned into weeks, the whispers grew louder. They slithered through the walls, insinuating themselves into my thoughts. I saw glimpses of their world, a place of shifting darkness, where time flowed differently. They hungered for release, for a way to breach the barrier that separated us. Jacob's drawings became more intricate, more desperate. He spoke of the Keeper, a shadowy figure who visited him at night. The Keeper promised protection, but at a cost. Jacob's innocence was fading, replaced by a knowingness that chilled me to the bone. One evening, as the moon hung low in the sky, I followed the whispers. They led me to the basement, where a hidden door beckoned. The wood was old, gnarled, and bore the same symbols as Jacob's room. I pushed it open, revealing a narrow staircase that descended into darkness. The air grew thicker, laden with anticipation. The walls pulsed, matching the rhythm of my heartbeat. At the bottom of the stairs, I found a chamber, a shrine to the Veiled Whisperers. Candles flickered, casting elongated shadows on the walls. In the center stood a pedestal, upon which rested a blackened tome. The whispers intensified, urging me forward. I opened the tome, its pages brittle and yellowed. The language was the same as Jacob's symbols, their secrets laid bare. The keeper's name echoed through my mind, a promise of power, of understanding. But at what cost? I read the incantation aloud, my voice trembling. The room quaked, and the walls bled shadows. The barrier weakened, and I glimpsed the other side, a realm of writhing darkness, hungry and vast. The keeper materialized, eyes like voids, and whispered truths that shattered my sanity. The keeper's whispers echoed in my mind, a symphony of madness. He revealed the truth: the sigils were not mere protection, they were anchors. Jacob's drawings had weakened the barrier between worlds, allowing the veiled whispers to seep through. I confronted Jacob, his eyes hollow, pupils dilated. He spoke in a language I couldn't comprehend, his voice layered with echoes. "The keeper chose me," he said. "I am the bridge." Desperation drove me to seek answers beyond the tome. I delved into forbidden rituals, tracing the lineage of the veiled whisperers. Their origins were lost in time, but their purpose remained: to maintain equilibrium. The keeper was their guardian, a sentinel who ensured that neither realm encroached upon the other. But something had changed. The whispers grew insistent, demanding release. The keeper hungered for freedom, and Jacob was the key. I had to make a choice: save my son or protect our world. The basement beckoned once more. I descended, the walls pulsing with anticipation. The blackened tome lay open, its pages aflame. The incantation awaited completion, a final verse that would either seal the breach or unleash chaos. Jacob stood beside me, his skin translucent, veins tracing the sigils. His eyes held centuries of knowledge. "The keeper is ancient," he whispered. "He remembers when stars were born." I recited the incantation, my voice trembling. The room quaked, shadows writhing. The barrier thinned, revealing glimpses of the other side, a realm of shifting shapes, where forgotten gods slumbered. The keeper materialized, his form shifting, a blend of shadow and memory. "Release me," he commanded. "The balance must shift." I hesitated. Jacob's life hung in the balance. The whispers intensified, urging me to choose. The keeper's eyes bore into mine, and I glimpsed eternity, the weight of existence, the fragility of reality. I made my decision. "You will remain bound," I said. "Jacob is not your pawn." The keeper howled, the walls cracking. Shadows lunged, clawing at my flesh. I completed the incantation, sealing the breach. The room collapsed, and I woke in darkness. Jacob lay beside me, his eyes clear, innocence restored. But the whispers lingered, faint echoes of a forgotten truth. The veiled whisperers retreated, their hunger sated, for now. As dawn painted the sky, I vowed to protect my son. The sigils remained etched into our lives, a reminder of the thin veil that separated us from the unknown. And somewhere, in the depths of shadow, the keeper watched, a silent sentinel, waiting for the next breach. Story 2. Whispers in the Glass. I always believed mirrors were gateways, not to other worlds, but to the deepest parts of our own minds. That belief shattered the night my reflection defied reality. It began as a whisper, a silent mouthing of words I strained to understand. The bathroom was cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones, and the mirror was frosted over as if it breathed a life of its own. Each evening, I'd catch it, my other self, mouthing something urgent. I ignored it until curiosity overcame fear. One night, I leaned in, the glass chilling my skin, and my reflection's lips moved with desperate speed. It was a warning, I realized too late, as its hand shot out, fingers wrapping around my throat with an icy grip. Panic set in as I struggled against the hold of my mirrored counterpart. Its eyes, my eyes, were wide with terror, mirroring my own. The room spun, and the light flickered, casting shadows that danced and twisted around us. I could feel its breath, cold and stinging, as it whispered words I finally understood: "Behind you." I wrenched free, tumbling backward, and spun around. The bathroom was empty, but the air was charged with a presence I couldn't see. The mirror now reflected only the room, but the frost remained, spreading across the surface like creeping vines. I left the bathroom, the image of my grasping reflection burned into my memory. Sleep evaded me that night. Every shadow seemed to move, every noise a whisper from the glass. The next day, I avoided my reflection, but as night fell, a compulsion drew me back. The mirror was clear, but the cold was there, waiting. I watched as my reflection raised a finger to its lips, then pointed behind me once more. This time, I didn't turn around. I watched in horror as a shadowy figure materialized in the reflection, standing just inches behind me. Its form was indistinct, but its intent was clear. I was not alone, and the mirror was no longer my own mind's gateway, it was a door for something else. As the figure reached for me, the mirror fogged over once again, and the words of my reflection came through in a chilling hiss, "Run." The days blurred into nights, and my reflection became my silent confidant. I couldn't escape its gaze, its mouth moving soundlessly, urging me to uncover the truth. The mirror held secrets, and I was drawn to them like a moth to a flame. I researched the house's history, desperate for answers. The previous owner had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a cryptic journal. The pages were filled with ramblings about mirrors that whispered, about a realm beyond our own. I read about a ritual, the Reflections Pact, that bound souls to their reflections, granting them glimpses into the unseen. The mirror's frost spread, encroaching on the edges, and I knew time was running out. Each night, I stood before it, waiting for the whispers. My reflection's eyes pleaded with me, and I wondered if it was a warning or an invitation. The figure in the glass grew more defined, its features twisted and tormented. One evening, as the moon hung low, I pressed my hand against the mirror. The cold seeped into my skin, and I whispered the words from the journal, "I seek the truth." The glass trembled, and the room darkened. The figure stepped out, its form solidifying. It wore the face of the vanished owner, hollow eyes fixed on mine. "You seek," it rasped, "but do you dare?" I nodded, my heart pounding. The figure beckoned, and I stepped through the mirror, leaving my reflection behind. The other side was a twisted reflection of our world, a place where shadows whispered and memories bled into reality. The figure led me deeper, through corridors of fractured glass, until we reached a chamber. There, in the center, stood a mirror larger than any I'd seen. Its surface rippled, showing glimpses of other worlds, other lives. The figure gestured, and I understood. The Reflections Pact awaited me. To know the truth, I had to bind my soul to the glass. I hesitated, torn between fear and curiosity. My reflection appeared beside me, its lips moving in silent encouragement. I stepped closer, my breath fogging the mirror. The figure's hand rested on my shoulder, and I whispered the pact's words, sealing my fate. The mirror absorbed me, and suddenly, I was both observer and observed. I saw the house through countless eyes, the vanished owner, the curious child, the desperate lover. Their whispers echoed in my mind, their stories merging with mine. But the truth was darker than I'd imagined. The mirror was a prison, and the figure my jailer. It hungered for souls, feeding off their reflections. I was trapped, my body on one side, my essence on the other. And as the mirror whispered its secrets, I realized I was not alone. The mirror world was a labyrinth of twisted corridors, each leading to forgotten memories and lost souls. I wandered, my footsteps echoing in the glass, my breath visible in the cold air. The figure, the jailer, trailed behind, its eyes hollow and hungry. I encountered others like me, souls trapped in fractured reflections. Their faces were masks of despair, their whispers a cacophony of pain. They reached out, fingers brushing against my skin, seeking solace or salvation. But I had none to offer. I was a trespasser, a seeker of truth who'd bargained away his own existence. The mirror world shifted, revealing glimpses of my past. I saw my childhood home, my parents' faces etched with worry. I saw the day I lost my sister, the accident that tore her away from me. The mirror whispered, "She's here too," and I knew I wasn't alone in my suffering. The figure urged me forward, toward the heart of the mirror. There, in a chamber bathed in ethereal light, stood a throne of glass. The figure gestured, and I climbed the steps, my reflection watching from below. The throne was cold, unforgiving, and as I sat, memories flooded my mind. I remembered the night I'd first heard the whispers. My sister had stood beside me, her eyes wide, her lips moving soundlessly. She'd pointed at the mirror, her gaze pleading. "Don't listen," she'd whispered. "Don't seek." But I hadn't listened. I'd pressed my hand against the glass, and the mirror had whispered secrets, the truth about my sister's death, the guilt that gnawed at my soul. I'd bargained, desperate for answers, and now I paid the price. The figure knelt before me, its voice a rasp. "You sought truth," it said. "Now you must choose." Choose? I glanced at my reflection, its eyes filled with sorrow. "What choice?" "To remain," the figure said, "or to return. To forget, or to remember." I understood. The mirror held memories, the ones I'd lost, the ones I'd buried. If I stayed, I'd know everything, the pain, the guilt, the truth. But I'd be a ghost, a whisper in the glass, forever bound to this fractured realm. If I returned, I'd forget. The whispers would fade, and life would resume its normal course. But my sister's face would blur, her voice a distant echo. I hesitated, torn between two worlds. The mirror trembled, and my reflection reached out, its fingers grazing mine. "Choose," it mouthed. I closed my eyes, my heart heavy. "I choose," I whispered. The mirror shattered, and I fell, back into my own body, back into the bathroom. The frost had vanished, and the room was warm. But my reflection was gone, replaced by a blank surface. I touched the glass, feeling the remnants of memories slip away. My sister's face faded, and the whispers ceased. I was free, but the truth was lost. And as I stared into the empty mirror, I wondered, was it worth it? The end. Subscribe for more. Thank you.